Bullied me in 6th grade? I got my revenge 15 years later lol, by user Quertitude1243. I had a bully in middle school who used to torment the life out of me by beating me up, pouring water on me, locking me in bathrooms, making fun of my weight etc. I recently saw on Facebook that he's engaged, so I stupidly thought of a petty revenge plan. I used an old Instagram account and posed as a pretty woman and DM'd him. 20 minutes later he messaged me back. We chatted where I pretended to be a woman and he began to flirt. I screenshot all his sexts in case he might unsend them, including the NSFW pics that he sent. I forwarded those screenshots to his fiancée and bada boom, the engagement photos from their Facebook were deleted the next day. Was this too much? My brother kept jump scaring me for years, then I got back at him so bad he cried, by usernorswolf98. So, when my brother and I were young, he was about 7 and I was 10, he found out that I was very easily scared. The slightest sudden noise could make me jump out of my skin and get a scream from me. This would usually manifest in him hiding behind things and popping out with a loud boo. And he would get me every time. It got so bad that I was scared to even walk the halls of my house. After a couple years of this my parents stepped in and told him to cut it out. It definitely slowed down, but he would do the occasional spook and get me. That is until one fateful night in 2012. My family and I were big fans of Doctor Who and it had entered its 6th series and introduced a new monster, the Silence. For those who don't know, the Silence look like somewhat generic grey aliens in a nice 3-piece suit. The catch was that every time a character would look away from the alien, they'd forget about it. So what the characters would do is put tally marks on their forearms and face whenever they see one. It was a very good idea for a monster and wonderfully executed in those first 2 episodes. During the 2nd episode there's a character in an abandoned orphanage and she's looking out the window, lightning strikes and her face and arms are full of tally marks. It's a very good scare. So good in fact, that I notice my brother is acting uneasy. So then I have an idea. A most horrible idea. A delightfully devilish idea. A petty idea. I asked my father to pause the episode cause I needed to go to the bathroom. I lied. I didn't need to go to the bathroom. I grabbed a Sharpie and wrote a bunch of tally marks all over my face and arms. I was absolutely giddy. Then, with my game face on, I go back downstairs to the TV room. I turn on the lights, this makes my brother ask what was up and he turns his head to look at me. He starts freaking the fuck out. Like he was back crawling towards our dad. My dad asks what's wrong, looks at my face, and starts laughing his ass off. I act like nothing happened and got closer to my brother, feigning concern. That freaked him out even more. After my dad and I had our laughs he told me to wash up. My brother couldn't continue the episode so he runs to his room. My dad calls my mom and tells her that I finally got one over my bro. Nowadays there are no more pranks between me and my brother. He's graduating with his bachelor's degree and is one of my groomsmen in my wedding. He's a good man and I'm very proud of him and I love him very much. TLDR, younger brother kept scaring me for no reason so I got him back good by emulating a show we were watching. Edit, Series 6 did not debut in 2012. Series 6 was 2011 haha oops. Edit 2, I did it mom. I'm Reddit famous. Thank you kind stranger for the gold. I'm very happy that so many people got a kick out of this dumb little prank I pulled on my baby brother 10 plus years ago lol thank you all so much, smiley face. My son's name helped me get a small dose of petty revenge against a girl who constantly tried to compete with me in high school, by user Kale haha. So when I was in high school, I was on the speech and debate team. If you're unfamiliar, think drama club meets Young Democrats / Young Republicans. I mostly did the public speaking events that focused on real-world political topics, and I loved it. I usually made it to finals in my events, but I had fun even when I didn't, and made some really great friends from other schools. If I wasn't in finals, I would go watch others who were competing to support my teammates. There was a girl I saw at almost every tournament. Let's call her MM and I didn't do any of the same events because she focused more on the drama side of speech and debate. But M was constantly comparing herself to other people, and would get really arrogant if she made it to finals in her events and I didn't make it to finals in mine. Anytime she didn't make it to finals in her events, she would cry and accuse the judges of not being fair, and would then pout in the cafeteria all throughout finals and sometimes wouldn't even go to awards to support her teammates who did win something. In conversations, she was also a big one-upper. You could never talk about anything fun or cool you did, because she'd always done something cooler or more fun. If you've ever seen Glee, she was a real-life Rachel Berry. She and I are still friends on social media, although we haven't personally spoken very much since high school. I've watched her flaunt now 2 different failed engagements, along with a slew of random jobs that never seem to work out for very long. I don't post as much on social media, so she didn't really know what was going on in my life. My long-term partner and I found out in early March that we were pregnant. We had been trying for a baby and didn't think it would ever happen because we had been told by doctors that our chances of conceiving naturally were slim. So this baby means everything to us. Before we even got pregnant, we had agreed on a name for our baby, if we were to have the boy we both wanted. In high school, my grandmother had told me that if she had ever had a son, this was the name she was going to give him. However, she only had 2 girls. I fell in love with the name immediately and told her that if I ever have a son, I would give him this name. She passed away while I was in college, but I'm still in love with the name and fully intend to honor that promise I made to my grandmother. Thankfully, my partner also fell in love with this name when I told him about it. Flash forward to the present day. My partner and I were about a week away from finding out if we were having a boy or a girl, and then one day on Instagram, I see a post from Em announcing that she is pregnant with a boy. She's due 2 months before me. At this point, I hadn't announced my own pregnancy publicly yet, so Em didn't know, but some our mutual friends knew. One of them who was really close to her informed me that she had shared her baby name list with her and that the name my grandmother picked out was on the list. Em had specifically said that she remembered me talking about liking that name at a speech tournament in high school, and that the name had stuck with her ever since, particularly because the name is shared by her favorite poet. She told our mutual friend that that name was her top choice, but her partner had a different preference, so they were still going back and forth about it. My partner and I recently found out that we are also having a boy, and are using the name we love regardless of what Em names her baby, because what difference is it really going to make, especially because we don't even live in the same state and these children will probably never meet. It's also not a unique/rare name by any means, so to us it feels silly to act like only one of us can use it. But this is where I got my small dose of petty revenge. After we learned the gender of the baby, we decided to go ahead and announce our pregnancy publicly, and since we already had his name picked out, and it's something we know we're not going to change our minds about since it has so much sentimental value, we decided to include his name in the announcement. So Em learned that I was also pregnant, having a boy, and using the name I loved. I would be lying if I said that I hadn't thought about Em's reaction when my partner and I made the decision to also announce our baby's name. Em hasn't said anything to me about the baby or about our name choice, but apparently she has had a lot to say to our mutual friends. She said if she can talk her partner into it, she still wants to use that name for her son, and that since her baby will be born first, if I do end up using it for my son as well, then I'm just copying her. She has apparently become obsessed with trying to find out details about my pregnancy and my relationship with my partner, since I don't post as much on social media. She's been harassing our mutual friends asking about me, to the point where several of them are starting to cut ties with her because it's getting to be too much. Even her partner has reportedly told her that she's going overboard, and has apparently vetoed this name for their son because he thinks she's too weirdly fixated on it and me and wants her to stop stirring the pot. So I'm having a baby with the man of my dreams, getting to finally use the name my grandmother fell in love with decades ago, and as an added bonus, my friends from high school are finally seeing how weird Em is for the way she constantly tries to compete with different people. Editing to add, for the people who keep commenting asking the name even though I shared it in like 10 different comment threads at this point, his name is Joe. Joe Mama. Editing again to add that if you didn't catch the joke and actually thought the name is Joe, that's on you. Aggressively push me to get on the train for the remaining seat? I sure hope you enjoy your book, by Userat's Pyjamas. This was a couple months ago. I was waiting at the station, when the train pulled up. Not a busy platform and not a busy train, but the woman behind me aggressively pushed past me to get on first, even ahead of people getting off the train, and almost knocked me over. Fine whatever, you want a seat. And she did get a seat, to then pull out a book where she was visibly only a few chapters in. Coincidence is that I finished that exact same book a few weeks before, and there's a massive twist 3/4 into the book. Just as I get off train, I walk past her and say the wife is faking it the entire time and walk off. Felt pretty good. Keep using my email address and I will fuck with you, by user Green Radioactive. My Gmail address is short and sweet, easy to remember, no numbers or anything like that, just my first and last names. Problem is that it seems that people with a name similar to mine use it as one of those throwaway addresses you give when you are filling out some stuff for a random company and you don't want to give away your data. This means I get a lot of spam. I get crap from all over the Americas, the US, Mexico, Guatemala, Brazil, Ecuador. My surname sounds Hispanic, and it gets very tiresome. Very. I sometimes get an honest mistake, like an email from a school in Texas or something, and I write back telling them that it's not the correct address, and I get a thanks back. I'm not a complete monster. But every now and then these guys overstep the mark. They use this email address, which remember, they have no access to sign up for stuff you really might not want other people to be able to fuck around with. Q petty revenge. Some random guy in California used a dating site using my email. I use the lost password feature to go onto his account, insult his prospective bitches, then delete the account altogether. I got an email from a Brazilian car dealer asking if I wanted a full service package with some extras, to which I said yes. Absolutely. Order all the necessary parts and material. Strangely, I never heard from them again. My favorite was a rental car reservation some moron used my email for. I got access to a reserved area and added some extra insurance and a couple of extra days to his rental period. I have some schadenfreude when I think of him wanting to leave the with car but having to go through the trouble of having to cancel my add-ons. Ha. Ha. Fuck you. There's a moral here, kids. Don't use random email addresses for stuff. Edited for typos.